You're about to discover something that could change how you see your bank account forever. Right now, as you watch this, millions of dollars are moving through a payment system that operates in complete darkness, and your bank has been keeping you in the dark about when your money actually moves. Let me explain what's really happening. Welcome back to the channel where we dig deep into the financial truths that nobody else wants to talk about. I'm so glad you're here today because what I'm about to share with you is something that affects your money every single day, yet almost nobody understands how it actually works. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button because we're all about exposing the hidden mechanisms of banking and finance that institutions would rather keep buried. And if you've been with me for a while, you know we don't hold back when it comes to uncovering the truth. Have you ever transferred money late at night and wondered why it doesn't show up immediately? Or sent a payment on Friday only to see it sit there doing absolutely nothing until Monday morning? There's a reason for that, and it's not what your bank has been telling you. The truth is far more interesting and honestly a little bit frustrating once you understand how the system actually works. Let me start with a story that happened to me last month. I sent a payment at 11:30 at night, desperately trying to cover an expense before a deadline. I watched my account balance drop immediately. The money left my account right then and there. But here's the strange part. The person I sent it to didn't receive it for almost 2 full days. Where did my money go during that time? That question led me down a rabbit hole that revealed something most people never learn about the banking system. The answer lies in something called the SSA, but not the Social Security Administration that you might be thinking of. I'm talking about the payment infrastructure that banks use to move money between accounts, and there's a specific midnight cutoff that affects every single transaction you make. Understanding this could save you from late fees, bounced payments, and a whole lot of confusion. So, what exactly is this SSA system? Without getting too technical, it's the backbone of how banks communicate with each other to transfer funds. Think of it like a postal service, but for money. Just like the post office has specific pickup times and delivery schedules, the banking system has its own rhythm. And just like missing the mail truck means your letter waits until tomorrow, missing certain banking cutoffs means your money sits in limbo. But here's where it gets interesting. Your bank shows that money leaving your account instantly because they want you to think the transaction is complete. They deduct it from your available balance right away. This serves two purposes. First, it prevents you from spending that money twice. Second, it makes their system appear faster and more efficient than it actually is. Meanwhile, the actual movement of funds happens on a completely different timeline that they don't advertise. The midnight cutoff is crucial because it determines which business day your transaction gets processed. Let's say you make a transfer at 11:59 on a Tuesday night. Your bank will likely process it as a Wednesday transaction. But if you send it at 12:01, just 2 minutes later, it might not get processed until Thursday. That's a full 24-hour difference caused by 2 minutes of timing. Now multiply this across millions of transactions happening every single day. Banks are essentially holding on to your money during these processing windows. And while they hold it, even if just overnight, they can use it. This is called the float, and it's worth billions of dollars across the entire banking industry. Your individual transaction might only give them a few dollars of float, but across millions of customers, this adds up to serious money. Your bank isn't going to explain this to you because there's no incentive for them to do so. When you call customer service asking why a payment hasn't arrived, they'll give you vague answers about processing times and business days. They'll tell you it takes time for systems to communicate. What they won't tell you is that much of this delay is built into the system intentionally, a remnant of banking infrastructure that was designed decades ago and hasn't been updated because the current system benefits banks financially. Here's another thing they're not telling you. Different types of transactions get processed at different times. A debit card purchase might settle almost immediately. A wire transfer during business hours could complete in a few hours. But an ACH transfer, which is what most people use for bill payments and direct deposits, follows a batch processing system that only runs at specific times. And one of those times is right around midnight. The batch processing system means your transaction sits in a queue with thousands of others, waiting for the next processing window. It's like waiting for a train that only comes at certain times of day. Miss one train, and you're waiting for the next one. This is why timing matters so much and why understanding these cutoff times can be the difference between a payment arriving on time or being late. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine you need to pay rent by the first of the month. You initiate the payment on the evening of the 31st, thinking you're safe. But if you submit it after your bank's cutoff time, it gets dated as the first and doesn't actually process until the second or third. You might get hit with a late fee even though you thought you paid on time. This happens to people every single day, and most never understand why. The same thing happens with direct deposits. Your employer might send your paycheck on Thursday, but you don't see it until Friday or even Monday. Where is it during that time? It's in the processing pipeline, moving through these batch systems, hitting cutoff times, and waiting in queues. The money exists, it's been sent, but it's trapped in the machinery of the banking system. What makes this even more frustrating is that the technology exists to make all of this instant. Other countries have real-time payment systems where money moves in seconds, not days. The infrastructure is available, but implementing it requires banks to invest money and potentially give up the profitable float they currently enjoy. So the United States has been slow to adopt these faster systems, even though they would benefit consumers enormously. There are newer systems being introduced, like real-time payments and instant ACH, but they're not yet universal. Many banks still rely on the old batch processing system because it's what they've always used and what their infrastructure is built around. Changing it would require significant investment, and as long as customers don't understand or complain about the current system, there's little pressure to change. So what can you do with this information? First, learn your bank's specific cutoff times. Call them and ask directly when transactions need to be submitted to process same day. Different banks have different cutoffs, and some have multiple cutoff times throughout the day depending on the type of transaction. Write these times down and reference them when making important payments. Second, always build in buffer time for critical payments. If something absolutely must arrive by a certain date, send it at least 3 business days early. Yes, that seems excessive, but it accounts for all the potential delays in the system. Weekend and holiday processing delays can add even more time, so factor those in as well. Third, consider using faster payment methods when timing is critical. Wire transfers cost more, but move much faster. Some banks now offer instant transfer services, though they may charge fees. For urgent payments, the fee might be worth the guarantee that your money arrives when you need it to. Fourth, monitor your account carefully around important payment dates. Don't just assume a payment went through because you initiated it. Check to confirm it actually posted and cleared. Set up alerts on your account so you get notifications when transactions process. This simple step can prevent a lot of problems. Fifth, understand that pending transactions are in a weird limbo state. The money has left your available balance but hasn't actually completed its journey. If something goes wrong during processing, that transaction could potentially be reversed or delayed further. Don't consider a transaction complete until it shows as fully posted on both ends. Here's something else your bank probably hasn't explained. The midnight processing window isn't just about moving money between accounts, it's also when banks reconcile their books, calculate interest, determine account balances for various purposes, and perform system maintenance. All of this happens while most of us are sleeping, in a flurry of automated activity that forms the invisible backbone of modern banking. During these midnight processing windows, accounts can temporarily show incorrect balances. Deposits might appear and then disappear. Pending transactions might change status. It's all part of the reconciliation process. But if you happen to check your account during this window, you might see some confusing information. Banks don't publicize these processing windows because explaining them would reveal how complex and sometimes archaic their systems really are. The reality is that banking infrastructure is built on layers of old and new technology stacked on top of each other. The core systems that many banks use were built decades ago and have been patched and updated over time, but never fully replaced. It's like trying to run modern software on an old computer. It works, but not as smoothly or quickly as it could with newer infrastructure. This layered approach creates vulnerabilities and inefficiencies. It's why your bank might have occasional outages or why certain transactions take longer than they should. It's why the midnight processing window exists at all, because the system needs dedicated time to catch up with itself, to process all the transactions that accumulated during the day, and to prepare for the next business day. What's really interesting is that your bank knows exactly where your money is at all times. They have systems that track every transaction through every step of the process. But this information isn't shared with you in real time. You get simplified updates: money left your account, money arrived in the other account. But all the steps in between remain hidden. There's no tracking number for your payment like there would be for a package, even though the capability exists. Some newer financial technology companies are starting to change this. They offer real time notifications and more transparent tracking of where money is in the processing pipeline. But traditional banks have been slow to adopt these customer friendly features. Again, there's little incentive when most customers don't know enough to demand better. The Midnight SSA alert I'm talking about isn't an official notification your bank sends. It's more of a conceptual wake up call about what's happening to your money during these processing windows. It's an alert that you should be aware of this system, understand how it works, and plan your financial activities accordingly. Think about how much of your financial life depends on timing: rent payments, mortgage payments, utility bills, credit card payments, payroll deposits, investment transfers. All of these move through the same system with the same cutoff times and processing delays. One small misunderstanding of how the timing works can cascade into late fees, overdraft charges, or worse. I've talked to people who have been hit with hundreds of dollars in fees because they didn't understand these processing windows. They thought a deposit would arrive in time to cover a payment, but the timing didn't work out the way they expected. The deposit processed after the payment tried to go through, resulting in overdraft fees and bounced payment charges, all because nobody explained how the midnight cutoff works. Your bank makes money from these fees, so there's actually a disincentive for them to educate you too thoroughly about timing. If you understood the system perfectly, you'd avoid situations that generate fee income. So they keep the explanations vague and technical, making it hard for average customers to really grasp what's happening. But knowledge is power. Now that you understand the midnight processing window, you can plan around it. You can ask better questions when you call your bank. You can make more informed decisions about when to send payments and when to expect deposits. You can avoid the traps that catch millions of people every year. The banking industry is slowly moving toward more transparency and faster processing, but it's happening incrementally. In the meantime, you have to work within the system as it exists today. That means understanding these invisible mechanisms that control when your money actually moves, even if your bank isn't eager to explain them. So the next time you send a payment or wait for a deposit, remember that there's an entire invisible infrastructure working behind the scenes. Your money is on a journey through batch processing systems, clearinghouse networks, and interbank communication channels. It's passing through the midnight processing window, being sorted and reconciled along with millions of other transactions. And remember that your bank's customer interface, the app or website you use, is just a simplified window into this complex world. What you see isn't always what's really happening in real time. There's a delay, a translation, a simplification that hides the messy reality of how money actually moves between accounts. This isn't about conspiracy or malicious intent. It's simply about outdated infrastructure, business incentives, and a lack of pressure to modernize. Banks operate in the system they have, which was built for a different era and has been adapted rather than replaced. Understanding this helps you navigate it more effectively and avoid costly mistakes that come from misunderstanding how the timing really works. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for caring enough about your financial well-being to invest your time in learning this stuff. It matters and you matter. I'll see you in the next video where we'll uncover even more truths that the financial industry doesn't want you to know. Until then, stay informed, stay vigilant, and keep questioning everything your bank tells you. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.